Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. It's good to see so many faces out there. This is the meeting of the Town Council on Tuesday, August 15th, 2023. We're starting pretty close to 6 o'clock, and I want to call the meeting to order. Can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmembers Abel.
Here.
Droz.
Here.
Lombardo.
Here.
Schooler.
Here.
And Mayor Dennison. Mayor Dennison is excused for this evening.
Okay. We're going to have our council member Abel lead us in the pledge. So if we will stand and we have an invocation afterwards, so please remain standing. Pastor Daniel Hanna from the Crossview Bible Church will lead us in a prayer.
Thank you. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Pastor Daniel Hanna.
Prayer is about worship. Would you worship God, our Creator, with me? Our Father in heaven, we do come before your throne only through the cross sacrifice of our Lord Jesus Christ. And Father, we are here to worship you for just a few moments. You are the God of glory, and we do worship you. And Father, I pray for each of these supervisors. I pray, Father, for blessing in their lives because of their service to our community. We desire for them to be blessed in a way that they can recognize comes from you. And then Father, we pray that their service to our community would be blessed. Where would we be without your blessings, Father? So we pray for this community, and we pray for their ministry to this community. And then, Father, we pray for the children in this community. We pray that you would bless them and protect them. We pray for the drug addicts in this community. We pray that they would find a way to be clean and sober. Father, we pray for our law enforcement. We pray for the teachers. And we pray for this meeting. We pray that you would shepherd and superintend this meeting, Father. So we commit Yucca Valley and the surrounding areas. We commit this meeting into your care. And we pray all of these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Well done. Please be seated. Okay, today we'll start off with presentations, introductions, and recognitions. And I'd like to call forward the people from Frontier Communication for an update. Hi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and council members. My name is Doug McAllister, and I am the Vice President of External Affairs for Frontier Corporation here for the state of California. Sincerely appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. It's something I've been wanting to do since I found out a few things recently and brought to my attention, so we're going to have a nice conversation. I have a short deck, and by that, I've sat on your side of the dais for many, many years, and I have had more presentations that I can care to count, not all of which were really even directed at me. It was just I had to listen to them. And so I get it. I actually get it. So my goal is to be as short as possible with the deck to allow time for any questions you might have. I've been up here at these podiums around the state for 5 minutes, and I've been up here for an hour. It depends on the questions we have here. So I just want to jump into it, and then if you have questions before I get done, we'll do that as well. I hit this button. There you go. This slide is part of why I'm here tonight. Basically, this is a quote by me, not Frontier. It says, if we're going to do something bigger than we ever have, then we better do business better than we ever have. This is an ideal set forth by the new board and the new CEO that Frontier has right now. I am in existence at Frontier because of that ideal. They recruited me about a year ago to come and help drive the build for our fiber optic build here in California. And the idea of that basically is they needed someone who understood what you guys go through to deal with these things. And so my role, along with my team, is to basically be external affairs, be your first point of contact at your level. You think it gets to I don't care, you walk into a grocery store, you walk into church, you walk someplace, and somebody lambasts you with something like, as Mayor Pro Tem and I were talking about earlier, you need a red phone call. I'm the red phone call. Your team has my phone number, and it is for you to use. I used to hate walking into the stores and things and get lambasted, and I didn't know what they were talking about, much less know who to talk to about it. And so I don't want that to be the case for you. And we've had some issues here that we are going to talk about. And going forward, as those issues, if they are not resolved the way they need to be, I need to hear about it. They were brought to my attention, and we're working on them now so that we can actually do business better than we ever have. And that's the purpose behind this. I'm only going to talk about the first three here tonight. The first one is what we're doing. It's a fiber optic network. It's 100% fiber from our central office to the customer's home. I'm going to show a picture of what that looks like here in a bit. But this is not one of those fiber to a point and then copper after that. Copper's a problem. Copper slows it down. That's basically glorified DSL. This is fiber all the way to the home, which allows for the massive speeds I'm going to talk about here in a minute. The households connecting have multiple devices all at the same time without worries. I read that, and I did a couple of the studies, and they say the average number of devices in a home are about 22, and I didn't believe it. So at home, it's me, my wife, and my cat. So the three of us, I started counting with computers and phones and tablets and TVs, and we have 13 just with the three of us. I'm not sure what the cat's using. And so, but when we do that typically what happens in most of your broadband is if it's a DSL base, you're going to end up with it slowing down. It might work real good in the middle of the night when no one else is watching TV down the block, but you're going to have buffering and things like that. You don't have that with our fiber. And to that point, the number three there, high-speed internet frontier, fiber optic offers speeds up to 5 gigs. I don't know what you're going to do with 5 gigs. I honestly don't. I have 500 over 500. We have the offerings of 500 over 500. You have a gig over a gig. You have 2 gigs over 2 gigs or 5 gigs over 5 gigs. What that means is up and down, the speeds are the same. It's not 1 gig down and 2 megs up. You have uploads and download speeds that are both very, very robust and fast. And what that does is allows, and from the standpoint you guys are going to understand this, your economic development drivers. When you're looking at trying to develop economically and such, especially nowadays post-COVID, folks are getting used to working from their homes. But if you don't have the right kind of broadband backbone to do that, they really can't do it as well as they could maybe at the office. And so I was interested in that when Verizon came to me many years ago to talk about putting this new thing called Fios in. I welcomed that in, and that's a whole other story we maybe talk about later. But by doing that, our city of Murrieta, where I was the mayor, went from a bedroom community to a biotech community because we suddenly had that going. We also had the freeways, and that helped as well, but it was the lack of a broadband backbone that was slowing us down. So adding that to your city here as well, at speeds much faster than I ever had under Fios, is only going to increase the options you're going to have for economic development drivers. When I talked about this is from the wire center to the side of the house. This is kind of what it looks like. Number one is the wire center. Unfortunately, sometimes our wire centers are not the prettiest buildings in your city. If that's the case, please let me know, and I'll have the guys who deal with that fix that at some point. So anyway, the wire center, and then moves into a hub, which moves into a connection there right in front of the houses, which goes to the router at the house. It goes all the way from the wire center to the side of the house. It's full-on fiber. That's what allows for these massive speeds. Oh, and by the way, it's one and done. Once we're done with the build, it is something that we don't have to come back and build again. If at some point, I know it's going to happen because since I've been here for a year and a half, it used to be the fastest we offered was 2 gigs. And now it's 5 gigs because at some point somebody decided that 2 gigs was yesterday. We need 5 gigs. Well, at some point somebody's going to decide 5 gigs is yesterday, and now we want 10 gigs. Basically, the wire says we change a couple of things, a couple of lights, and now you have 10 gigs as the offering. So we're not having to come back and rebuild all this stuff again. It's one and done.
Nice.
We'd like to be very focused on communication, and this is one of the things I need to hear about if it is not happening. And let me talk about me hearing about things. There's 2 levels of phone calls. The first phone call is what we call the white call. Your staff is dealing with my staff, and it's business as usual. They have hiccups, they work them out, and that's awesome. But there are times where, Curtis, you're going to get something. You're going to hear something, or you're all going to hear something, and it's going to come straight from the constituents, whatever else. That's the red phone call. That's when you call me directly. I don't care how minor it is. Don't even take the second breath. You call me or have your city administrator call me, and I will get on that as soon as possible. That is my job, to make sure you have an answer for your constituents. Back to the communication side of things. What we try to do is put out door hangers in different languages, as well as construction letters and yard signs, about 48 hours or so, whatever you tell us to do, before we get to a neighborhood to do the build. Like I said, if that is not happening, I need to know about it, because that is our policy. It's to communicate with folks. What we don't want to happen is that Joe Citizen walks out in the morning with his coffee to get his paper, and there's a truck out in front of the house and doesn't know what's going on, and they call and complain to you. And we don't want that to happen, so we try to communicate as much as possible. But I will tell you, if they're like me, I go in and out my house through the garage. The only reason, there's 2 reasons I go to my front door. One is to clean off all the door hangers that have been put over time, and the other is my wife's Amazon packages. Other than that, I'm not using that front door, and so I may have gotten a door hanger, but I didn't know it because I just threw it away. That's okay. If that happens, from my point of view, we consider that we didn't communicate. You let us know, we'll take care of that resident as fast as possible. This map here kind of gives you an idea of where we are this year, and I'm going to look this way so I can read it. The pink polygon here is basically your city jurisdiction. I'm pretty sure that's accurate. The orange lines you see in there are where we have existing fiber already. Those are probably feeder lines and things like that feed to the distribution lines, which are the blue lines. That's the new fiber to be placed. You'll see in there different places where it says 2023. Right now we have 7,100 addresses, what they call engineered, because we want to do the entire city. We're the phone company, and so any place we're the phone company, we want to put fiber. This year, by the end of this year, starting in November, we want to, no, not starting November, starting October, we want to do 1,200 addresses in this year alone, 2023. We'll be completing the rest of the 7,100 in 2024, but we're starting first quarter of 2024 through the year. You can imagine it's going to take some time to do that, but that's the plan at this point. The quality control issue is why I appreciate the invitation to speak to you guys tonight. The bottom line here is that my role is that when I get a red phone call, I need to respond. And I got recently the red call about what's going on here a couple of weeks ago and such. We're dealing with some safety issues, with some coils that were hanging, with other issues that were happening. And my job is to jump on that and to use the force of my office and my team to see to it that we have an internal response that's satisfactory. And so I will tell you right now, we'll talk about some of the specifics. I'm sure you have some of your own right now, but we have launched a rather robust response to see to it that our contractor does what we told our contractors to do. We've run into a couple of situations where shortcuts were taken, and simply a good job was not done. And so we have empowered our inspectors to shut them down in a heartbeat if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing safety-wise, or if they're not doing something standard-wise with regard to those coils and things. The coils themselves are up there for a couple of reasons. The biggest reason, there's a couple of other things, but the biggest reasons they're there is because we took a pause in the build itself, the overall expansion of new customers, because I wanted us to go back and catch up on things like this, to get caught up on the remediation that wasn't happening. And so in some cases, if not many of the cases where you see those coils, they're there in preparation for us to build again starting October, November. And so once that happens, you'll start seeing those coils go away. However, In some cases, they were put up there unsafely. And so we are currently working on that right now to see to it that that is resolved. If they haven't started already, they'll be starting, I believe, by tomorrow, to see to it that those coils are safe and there's no risk to anybody when it comes to that. And we'll talk about more of that in a minute, I'm sure. Once again, I talked about the different speeds. This is not a commercial. This just shows you basically the different levels that we have. But you'll probably wonder about the pricing because it's fairly inexpensive. I have 500 over 500, and that's plenty fast for me. I work my office out of the house. You can get 1 gig over a gig, 2 gigs over 2 gigs, or 5 gigs over 5 gigs. The reason our prices are so reasonable is because we divorced ourselves from the TV concept in a sense where you also have a package that you buy 6,000 channels, but you watch 6. We don't do that anymore. We have different partnerships every now and then, like YouTube TV or whatever else, where you get some discounts, but that's your choice. The idea here is to give you a robust, huge, fat pipeline of internet service that you can use any way you want. And to just do what most people do nowadays, which is stream. They pick their Amazon, they pick their Prime, they pick their Disney, they pick whatever they want to use, and then they pay for that individually, which is what I do now as well. So that's why the prices are as low as they are. The question was asked is when can people find out about the open for sale when their homes are ready? And the best way to do that is to go to our website at frontier.com, and you can put your address in, and it'll tell you whether your address is ready or not. However, that won't probably be ready till November because we're just now getting back into the build now. And so by around November, we should start seeing open for sales for this bunch of homes. And then, once again, that'll continue on into next year with the rest of the 7,100 homes that we're going to pass. And while I say that, I should probably make a distinction. While on the one hand, this is what we call fiber to the home. This is all focused on residential. However, we pass businesses all the time in the process of that. And so if there are businesses who are wanting these robust speeds, I will help them find those people to talk to so they can make those things happen, which was what I was interested in too when I was in your seat trying to build an economic development base for my city. Okay, I don't know how long that was, but that was as fast as I could go. So I stand ready for any questions you might have at this time.
Is there anybody in the public that would like to comment or ask questions? Please come to or just stand and talk to Doug there.
Thank you. Do I need to identify who I am?
Yeah, that'd be fine, and probably fill out a card eventually, not right away.
Yucca Valley. So a lot of the communication infrastructure is underground. So when they replace with fiber, is it going to go underground, replace the underground, or is it going to go overhead?
Right now, Sean, we're doing the aerial right now.
Aerial work.
To work, so everybody can hear me. Right now, for this first phase, we're doing aerial. So any place that we're already on a pole, we're overlashing onto the existing copper that's there and such. So right now, we're not doing the underground. That all will start next year, and so that'll be a combination of probably some boring, and that which is probably where we'll have a lot of discussion going forward, and existing conduit as well.
Okay. Did everybody hear the question? Underground, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Anybody else? Any other questions? Anybody online? Okay, back to the council. Oh, I'm sorry, did I see somebody wave? No, I missed somebody? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right, back to the council then.
Yeah, I believe one of the first projects that Frontier had was the project going up into Pioneer Town. And that was great because they really didn't have any type of services up there. Mm-hmm. Did you find that it was cost effective in bringing services to Pioneer Town, and did a lot of residents sign up?
Do we know? I do not know.
Okay.
I will be shocked if the answer is no. What we have found pretty universally is because of the pricing and because of the size of the pipe that they're getting, is that all it takes is one person to get it and everybody else wants it after that because they talk about it. But I don't definitively know. but usually our take rate's pretty high.
And one of the frequent questions that I also work in real estate as a realtor, and one of the frequent questions that many people have is internet services and so forth. So it's great because, as you mentioned, a lot of at-home businesses and people work from their home and don't commute, which is great for the environment, and also for the economy. People can live where they choose to and not be forced to live somewhere they don't want to be. But then also we're getting into more and more medicine and medical uses for the internet. So the person that might be home that can't get to a doctor can now visit online with the doctor. So it's a health and safety benefit as well for this coming to the area. Your map, of course, showed the town of Yucca Valley and the phases coming in. I'm assuming that there's some type of monies or grants that the company has been given to be able to expand, or it's just investment by
The private
Frontier?
investment for Frontier. And we're doing that. There are opportunities for such things, what we would call middle mile or last mile projects. Basically what that calls is under the umbrella of areas where we can't make any money if we build it on our dime. The IRR does not exist at that point. And so we partner with cities, counties, states, for grants, federal grants, there's a lot of it out there right now, to work on those areas as well. I am not aware of any of those areas here within the city of Yucca Valley, but it's, this is a private investment. That it's all, and the thing is that when we talked them into pausing so we get back and catch up on the remediation. One of the problems with that is that we don't make money until customers sign up, and we can't get them signed up until we finish the build. So pausing was hard, but it was the right thing to do because we needed to catch up where the contractors hadn't done their jobs. So
yeah, if we could all wave a magic wand, we would want all our utilities underground because we have the beautiful scenery here, and having those power poles and those lines going across just sort of take away from it. So,
yeah, I hear you.
but we're very, thank you for coming and clarifying. When people see work, they're going to call the city and see what's going on. Why are these trucks on my street? So thank you for reaching out to us tonight. Thank you very much.
And there's a couple of things, if you don't mind, on that point to watch for. Our contractors, first of all, we're supposed to do the notifications. Those better be happening. I need to know if they're not. Little things like when their trucks pull up, it better say Frontier on the side. And if it doesn't, I need to know things like that. I know that's a little thing, but if you're a resident out there and you got some nondescript truck out there doing stuff, you know what's going on. You can be concerned. And so there's things like that that just need to be happening. So when I talk about, I don't care how small it is. If you can have your staff call my staff and we're good to go. But if you want to get something quick, just call me about even the little things.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So it looks like basically this is mostly upgrading existing lines. Like I noticed where I live, I'm not in that area, and I'm in the town of Yucca Valley. Is there a schedule like to possibly expand
Yes.
in the future?
Can we get back to that map? Any chance?
Yeah.
Okay, what you're seeing there primarily is what we are trying to do this year. Okay, the rest of the city is coming next year. And so if you are within the city, well, in some cases outside the city, you see over here on the left-hand side, but for your sake, within the town of Yucca Valley, I keep saying city, I know it's town, then you will have opportunity. Unless there's some weird thing going on, you'll have opportunity sometime in the next year or so to be able to sign up at that point.
Thank you. I know a lot of people in my district would love to have that. So
Where are you?
the north side by Buena Vista, the two lines that don't meet on the very top,
Okay, up
right
here?
in the middle there.
So you're in that
Yeah.
area?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, I'll check and see if I can get some dates. I know the areas have been what they call engineered and such, but as far as getting them into the process, I don't know where that stands. I'll find out, see if I can let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Sean, you want to help me remember that?
Okay. Any?
Just a question. Thank you for the presentation. It's very informative. I think it'll be a tremendous upgrade for our community. But I just want to have a quick question. Seems like I'm seeing in publications and getting mailers about adverse effects of 5G, and maybe you could just without getting too deep into the weeds, put my mind at rest on that?
This is really easy. That's not us. That's wireless. This is all fiber optic lines, and so it's the speed of the light, in essence, the speed of and the size of the data stream that you're bringing in is not going over the airwaves at all. This goes to the side of your house. So that's a wireless discussion that the whole 5G thing is all about.
That's the cell towers.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
I have a question. I know you're not putting it underground at this time, but does fiber optic cable lend itself well to going underground? And is it easy to maintain underground, or is it, sometimes the telephone lines or the other lines have problems underground, and how is the cable for fiber optic?
Happily awesome. Right now you have copper. Copper gets wet, it gets funky, it doesn't work. You set the static, you get, all things kind of happening. Copper is, I think it's what they call twisted pairs, but they're 140-year-old technology. Fiber optic is basically a glass line. I'm making this over as simplistic. These guys back here can tell you specifically. It's a glass line with light going through. And so the technology with that, and it can be in water, it doesn't matter, the heat doesn't matter, it doesn't deal with any of that. So it's a lot more reliable. So if you have the copper right now, and every now and then the phone doesn't work right, or the internet's slow, everything else, that is all going away. And we're replacing that with the fiber. Now, copper is going to be there because some folks, they don't want our stuff, but they still want their phone, they have the copper to be on. But most folks are going to switch to the fiber, we're very confident. It's just that much better.
And the fiber will carry phone as well as internet, and it'll do your streaming and that sort of thing, okay?
The way it was described to me when Verizon came to me back when I was mayor, it was that right now, and I'm a picture guy, so this helped me understand it, is that what I had with copper was about the size of a hose. And what was coming with fiber at that point, which was that 50 meg back then? Only 50 meg, which back then was really fast and such, but it's like a 10-foot culvert as far as size.
In comparison.
We're talking up to 5 gigs, which I have no idea how big that culvert would be, but it'll handle. Right now, I have my 13 devices, and my computer on my desk, I have 3 computers, all the screens, then my phones, and everything else, and it doesn't slow down one iota. And the TV can be on, everything can be on. It's not a problem. It's actually pretty cool.
Very good. All right, well, we're excited, and I think it'll be a big driver for the economy in our community as well in the future. It's one of our big hopes, because we're not on the freeway, we don't have a rail line, and we don't have an international airport, so we kind of have to count on.
Yeah, I can say as an anecdote, I'm sorry.
1 second. Oh,
Will you have a walk-in office here in town?
No. No, we have our central office, but that is where all the equipment is. And that's for Homeland Security issues. It's pretty secure for those reasons, but not a walk-in office. But everything is pretty much online. However, having said that, if you have the first hint of a problem, you've got your representatives up here who can call me in a heartbeat. I'll take care of it.
No TV channels or anything? Right?
No. And anecdotally, to give you an idea of this, I already told you about my city, Marietta. We've finished I think we're finished with the city of Bishop. So Bishop there, Eastern Sierras, beautiful area, everything else, but there's not really no freeways, none of that. It's tourists, that kind of thing. What they're discovering is now that we have up to 5Gs to the homes up there, once again, which is not the wireless thing, it's the other, that they're seeing folks move from the Bay Area to Bishop because they can get rid of their $1 million apartment and for pennies compared to that, have a really nice house and do all their work there at the house because they have faster speed there than they have in the Bay Area.
Wow.
And so I would really encourage you, let me put my hat back on with you guys at this point, because I know I worked this to death when I was in Marietta, was really integrate that, brag about it to the businesses you're trying to recruit. You go to ICSC, brag about it, let them know that you've got the broadband backbone. And if it has any effect like it did for me, it'll make a difference for you.
So this is labeled broadband pathway, or what was it that you?
I like that.
That sounds good to me, too.
Sounds good to me. I like it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
Like the
pipeline.
internet highway, okay.
Yeah, it's a backbone, broadband backbone, broadband pathway. It's a pipeline. It's just a lot of internet, a lot of internet. It's pretty incredible.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Let's get to the approval of the agenda.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'll make a motion that we approve tonight's agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All righty, approved and seconded.
Councilmembers Abel,
Yes.
Droz,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Lombardo.
Yes. Consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are routine matters for formal documents covering previous town council instruction. Items are enacted by one motion and a second without separate discussion unless a member of the town council or town staff requests dialogue on a specific item at the beginning of the meeting. Requests for public comment on the consent agenda items should be filed with the town clerk. And if anybody that wants to speak on the consent agenda at this time, okay? So let's have the approval of the I'm sorry.
I actually want to pull an item to have us discuss.
Okay,
Item number 15,
number 15,
but everything else I'm fine with.
okay.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'll make a motion that we approve all items listed except for item 15.
All righty.
Second.
No second?
Second.
Okay,
Councilmembers Abel,
Yes.
Droz,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Lombardo.
yes. All righty.
Staff report.
Okay, you want me to mention what?
Yeah, expound on.
Just very briefly, staff will give a little background, Mayor and Council. You have an existing flag policy, flag etiquette policy that was adopted in December of 2021. The recommended action this evening would remove Flag Day and replace it with Memorial Day, on which your town staff places smaller United States flags along the streets around the community center, Remembrance Park, in addition to those days of July 4th and Veterans Day. So a very minor change, switching out Flag Day to Memorial Day. And that's the recommended action that's before the council this evening.
Okay,
Question.
so,
Okay,
give us-
to make it quick, I just don't think we should be switching it. I think we should have both. Put the flags out on Flag Day and Memorial Day. So I don't know what everybody thinks.
you're opting for the option to add
Add instead of switch.
Memorial Day as one of the days instead of removing or
What day
switching
it-
from
what
one
day
to
is
the
it?
other. Does anybody else?
I tend to agree with that. I think that's a good point.
Okay,
Yeah, I believe the reason was, well, just a couple weeks difference in timing between Flag Day and Memorial Day. I don't know which days
Flag Day's
land
the
on which.
14th, and
And then there had been some comments made in the different forms of media throughout the basin as to other jurisdictions were taking action on Memorial Day. Why wasn't the town taking action on Memorial Day? So that's what brought this matter forward for council consideration.
okay.
Well, we do have a lot of patriots in the area and so forth. How tedious is it for staff putting those out?
So staff's already required to go out on Memorial Day for those locations and those facilities that have flagpoles, because in the morning you start out at half staff, and then at noon, and half staff is for the fallen soldiers, and then at noon you raise it back to full staff for those that are still serving. So staff's already out in the field, and adding this onto that activity is not a significant change.
Okay, so I'm hearing that it wouldn't be a significant change or additional workload for
Yes, sir,
staff to add an extra day.
That's correct.
Then I would be in favor of adding the extra day and having them do it on both Flag Day and Memorial, and that would make it pretty much unanimous. Is that
I
right?
support that.
Sorry, did I-
Jeff can make a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we add Memorial Day to the flag schedule and leave Flag Day the way it is. So we have both days.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All right, should I ask for public comment before? Is there anybody in the public that would like to comment on our switching or adding Flag Day, Memorial Day, that sort of thing, flag etiquette? Anybody have comments on that? Please make yourself known. Please stand and just tell us what you think.
Kimberly Amorth, I live in Yucca Valley, and I agree, both days.
Okay, very good. Anybody else? Anybody online? All right, back to the council, so we're going to vote.
We have a motion, a second? Yeah.
Motion second, let's vote.
Councilmembers Abel,
Yes.
Droz,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lombardo.
Yes. All righty, so we are let's see here, we're on to department reports. Number 24, Yucca Valley Aquatic and Recreation Center Project, Town Project 6009, approval of list of qualified contractors, authorization to release plans and specifications to qualified contractors for construction bidding purposes. Is there, who's leading that discussion? There we go. There you are, Alex. We can't hear you. Nope. Try again. There. Say something.
Can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
All right, good.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council Member. The item before you tonight is the Yucca Valley Aquatic and Recreation Center Project, Town Project 6009, approval of list of qualified contractors, authorization to release plans and specification to qualified contractors for construction bidding process. The recommendation before you tonight is the Town Council first approves the list of qualified contractors, including Swinnerton Builders, Erickson Hall Construction Company, Neff Construction Company, and Pioneer Construction Company as the only contractors eligible to submit construction bids for the project. Also approves the plans and specification subject to the non-substantive changes and modification as approved by the town manager. Authorizes the release of the plans and specification to the qualified contractors identified in this staff report to bid on the Yucca Valley Aquatic and Recreation Center Project, Town Project number 6009, and authorizes and directs the town clerk to advertise and receive bids. Next slide.
Wow.
So between March of 23 and August of 2023, HMC architects and engineering consultants have worked with town staff, stakeholders, Dowen and SafeWork CM to develop the project through bid documents and contractor pre-qualification. The contractor pre-qualification applications were due to the town on June 29, 2023. Next slide. So this pre-qualification process included submittal by the contractors for completed pre-qualification document by the prescribed deadline, evaluation of a pre-qualification documents based on the list of scoring questions and scoring ranges, and only pre-qualified contractors are eligible to submit a bid to this project. So we have 5 total contractors that submitted for this pre-qualification. Only 4 made it to the list. Next slide, please. So for the 4 firms that are qualified to continue forward in this construction bidding process, the plans and specification will be released to the 4 qualified contractors to initiate the bidding process. Bids are currently scheduled submission to the town clerk on October 19, 2023 at 3 p.m. That is subject to change depending. And then it's anticipated that the town council will award the construction bid in November or December of 2023 this year. Next slide, please. So back to the recommendation, I will read it one more time, that that the town council approves the list of qualification of qualified contractors, including Swinnerton Builders, Erickson Hall Construction Company, Neff Construction, Inc., and Pinner Construction as the only contractors eligible to submit construction bids for the project. Also approves the plans and specification subject to non-substantive changes and modifications as approved by the town manager, and authorizes the release of the plans and specification to the qualified contractors, identifying the staff report to bid on the Yucca Valley Aquatic and Recreation Center project, town project number 6009, and authorizes and directs the town clerk to advertise and receive bids. That concludes the staff report. I'll be more than happy to answer any question following public hearing.
Mayor and council, just one additional comment before you open it for public comment. You heard the schedule that Alex had laid out for the project. The entire team, from HMC Architects to Dahlin to SafeWorks, we are all working to try and have this on the council agenda for November 7th for award of construction bid. As you know, construction of a $30 million project is not simple. There's a lot of T's that have to be crossed and I's that have to be dotted, but staff and the entire team are doing their best to have it on and keep it on that schedule. That concludes staff's comments.
All right. Is there anybody in the audience or any of the public that would like to comment on any of this? Is there anybody online? Okay. Back to the council. Are there any questions from council? Go ahead. Jeff?
I just want to say it's wonderful. We have four contractors that are going to bid on this. But I have a question. What is if we stay on track at this point, what is the proposed completion date?
Has to be.
Approximately.
2025.
So if we stay on track for, on the schedule that we just laid out and have something that is, starting construction will be like maybe February. So we're looking at the late 2025 for completion.
And then just one additional comment on top of that is going to be supply chain issues. And so while we can have a schedule and we can have a precise schedule, if there is a manufacturing timeline, that's our biggest concern right now is going to be that supply chain and if anything pops up. The process is being structured to where those issues are addressed immediately after award of the construction contract, so the contractor can get those items ordered and underway. But that, I think the council just needs to be aware that supply chain process is something that could pop its ugly head up on us.
Now, we're under a deadline, is that correct, for construction or the finish?
The state has extended the deadline out, so we're not pushing that deadline at all. But staff wants, and as well as the council, want to get this project delivered for the community.
Of course. Okay.
Did I hear that right, Alex, that you said late 2025 for completion, so a 2-year timeframe?
About 2 years between, like Shane explained, the supply demand chain of delivering the goods and the actual construction. So yes, we're looking at about 2 years.
So the estimates range, depending upon how we're looking at that schedule, somewhere between 16, 18 to 20 months. So in general, that 24-month time period is what staff is discussing this evening, but you're definitely at a year and a half for actual construction of the project.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Drodes that it's great that we have 4 very qualified, very large companies bidding on a project. That's great for Yucca Valley, so we can have some competition and trying to keep the costs down and also the design as we intend to have. So that's great news. It's always hard to think you have to wait 2 years. Bathing suit sizes could change quite a bit in 2 years. So I'm gonna hold off on buying new trunks until it gets a little closer. But it's great that we have 4 very qualified people wanting to bid on this. And my understanding is, since these are large corporations or businesses, they're probably going to be using similar subcontractors for this specific kind of project. So the bids should be pretty competitive, I think. And like I said, we want to build it, but it has to be a quality project because it's going to last. It's going to be the only one we're building in our lifetime. So thank you for the great report. Appreciate it.
It's taken a lot of staff work to get here, and we appreciate you keeping this on track, and we keep pushing it forward. It is an important event for Yucca Valley. We don't get to build $30, $40 million things very often, and it's something that we want the town to be proud of for many, many years into the future. And we're excited that it's found 4 good contractors that have done this kind of thing before and at this scale. So it increases our confidence level that it can be completed on schedule and correctly. So we're excited. Thank you.
I'll make a motion if there's no other discussion, that we approve the resolution from Town Council, Town of Yucca Valley approving the list of qualified contractors and authorize the release of plans and specifications to the qualified contractors for the Town Yucca Valley Aquatic and Recreation Center, ARC, and authorize and direct the town clerk to advertise and receive bids.
I'll second.
Councilmembers Abel,
Yes.
Droz,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Lombardo.
Yes. All right. On to item number 25. Independent Audit Contract Amendment number 3 and award. Who's our finance person going to talk with that? Who's going to lead us in the discussion on item number 25?
You guys have, is Jordan connected this evening, gentlemen?
Is Jordan on?
Yes, can everyone hear me okay?
Oh, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
All right. I'll
You're-
give it just a moment.
No problem. There we go.
There you are.
You're good to go, Jordan.
We got
Great,
you now.
thank you. I'll just provide a quick summary of the report before you this evening. Pursuant to Town Code, Town Council appoints an independent auditor to provide audit services and annual financial reporting for the town. Our current audit provider is Rogers, Anderson, Malady, and Scott. They were appointed in March of 2015 and have provided audit services since then. Just to recap what's in your staff report, with the completion of the prior year's audits, town staff has found that Rogers, Anderson, Malady, and Scott provides excellent service and professionalism to the town's independent audit reports. It's recommended that the council consider extending the audit contract for another 3-year period for amendment number 3. Just as additional information, they do rotate their audit partners to provide that level of independence needed to be sure that we're getting a fully accurate and transparent financial reporting. And other than extending the period, there are no other significant changes proposed to the contract. So the recommendation before council is to amend the agreement with Rogers, Anderson, Malady, and Scott, extending the agreement for an additional 3-year period commencing with the next fiscal year, which is fiscal year 2023 through 24, for a total contract amount not to exceed $165,350. You will also authorize the town manager and town attorney to sign all necessary contract documents and authorize the town manager and or finance manager to sign the engagement letters. With that, I'll take any questions after public comment.
Okay, is there any public comment on our independent audit contract amendment? Seeing none, any online? No? Back to council, any questions? We've been very pleased with the auditing and our finance department. It's nice to know that they rotate the auditors so that there's no special relationships happening that would foul up the works, but this is great. I think that we're going to need to approve this, but let's, anybody else want to speak on this? We okay? Okay, then I'll move that we approve. I need a second.
All second?
All right,
Council members Abel,
Yes.
Droz,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Lombardo.
yes. All right, on to item number 26. Essig Park Improvement Project, Town Project Number 8519, approval of extra work, change of order number 1, Measure Y program funding. Who's leading us in this?
Yes, I'll do that.
Oh, there you are again, okay.
Yes. So the item before you tonight is, recommendation is that the number 1, that the town council approves change order number 1 to the contract with IMR Inc. for the expansion of the small dog park segment at Ezek Park by 2,600 square foot, increasing the contract by $153,173 from the amount of $713,758 to the amount of $866,931, authorizing the town manager or designee to execute all necessary documents. And number 2, that the town council amends the fiscal year 23-24 Measure Y Fund 801 budget, appropriating $300,000 from unassigned reserve funds to be allocated to the Essig Park project number 8519. Staff have met with met at Essig Park with number of park users on Monday, July 17, 2023 at 7:30 a.m. to discuss the project, hear park users' issues and concerns. In summary, the concerns were focused on 2 primary topics. The number 1 was the concrete walkway separating the small and the large dog park. And then the size of the small dog park is limiting in activities when in full use. So as we were discussing that, the walkway concrete was already completed by the time we got to that point. So what we done is we explored, well, there's other issue that discussed, but we explored how can we do and make it a little bigger for the users, especially on the small dog area, and how we can make them happy, basically. So what happened with that is we have asked the contractor and we discussed our plans and how we can expand it a little bit more than what it is. And that is what we got with up, which is just like, it's unfortunately there is some grading have to happen. We have to do some drainage fixing, and we have to do swales, and we have to do walls so we can prevent the mud to get into the small dog park and plug all of these sprinkler heads that we just built. So what we did is we discussed that with the contractor, and we came up to the total conclusion of $153,173 to complete that expansion. That is concludes staff report. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions following public comments.
Mayor and Council, I'd just like to make a few more comments this evening. I think you'll recall that prior to this project moving forward, the community services staff did an extensive public outreach survey at Essig Park, getting the input before the plans were finalized and put out to bid for construction. I think the council will also recall that you had extensive discussions over the course of the meetings from March 21st, April 18th, May 16th, and May 30th about the design of the dog park, and one of the primary issues that some or all of the council members were hearing from your constituents had to do with the sidewalks around the 2 dog park areas. The council made the decision at your meeting of May 30th that the project would proceed with those sidewalks as indicated in the current plans. Alex indicated that, yes, staff met with the users of the park. They identified the 2 broad issues, size and the issue of the dogs, the small dogs that like to run along the fence line, and concerns about the concrete and how that may hurt the pads on the dog's feet. As staff indicated in the report before you this evening, and as Alex indicated, the concrete was already poured. So our recommended action to you is that we finish the project as designed with this expansion area. We see how it functions afterwards, and if there needs to be some form of adjustment at that time on the small dog area, we will look at those issues at that time. So that concludes staff's report. Be happy to answer any questions following public comment this evening.
Okay. So bringing back to public, is there any comments on our plans for the small dog park?
Mayor Pro Tem, we have 2 requests to speak. The first is from Myra Kennedy, followed by Leah Agun. I had it in my head. Agnayo? Okay. So Myra, would you like to speak?
Please stand, come to the microphone, state your name and city of residence, and
Yes.
tell us your mind. Make
evening.
sure you're speaking to the...
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Myra Kennedy, and I am from Yucca Valley, and I am representing a group of small dog park people who were opposed to the concrete. It has been poured. I just feel I have a lot to say, but I don't have a lot of time, so I think I'm just going to summarize so everyone kind of gets an idea where we're coming from, because we're really nice people. We're not that crazy, but we have our reasons for why we have been doing what we've been doing. First of all, I've been hearing about this from last year. There was someone on the big dog park side that said somebody on the big side wanted to have everything concreted, and I kind of laughed it off, and I said, well, that's crazy, because who in their right mind would spend so much money on something that was unnecessary and potentially a hazard to our dogs? But I kept hearing the rumor again, and then again, and then again. You sent out the people with the surveys, which was fantastic. We thought, this is great. You're going to listen to what we have to say. We really didn't want to keep our grass, which we did have. Thank you. I personally had stated that if you're going to pour concrete, I totally understand, but pour it on the side where the dogs don't run. We do have people that have walkers and canes. We can be ADA compliant without running a complete racetrack of cement. That's not what this is. It's a dog park, so we can make everybody happy and stay safe. I did the online survey, so I thought, okay, everything's fine, but I have big ears. I hear. I kept hearing the concrete after the survey. So on our Essex Park Dog Park Facebook page, everyone was chiming in and up in arms about this and stating all the reasons and all the statistics of why it's not safe to have dogs running on concrete. And again, it's just that one patch. That's all we wanted to eliminate. We weren't saying eliminate all the concrete. We had Merle Abel chimed in and said at that time, it looks like the cement is for the outside of the dog park, as we call the human side, for strollers and, bicycles, roller skates. I said, fantastic, that's great. And we were invited to come to the town council meeting. That was the next day, February 21st. We did have a representative that did come. He was here. I believe he told me he spoke, and he was told at that time that there was not going to be that concrete in the dog park. So we went on our merry way thinking all is well. We didn't attend the other town council meetings, that is true, but I just figured you were talking about bids, the cost of things, contracts and awarding contracts, so we weren't here. There were press releases talking about the Essex Park Improvement Project, including the dog park, but there were never any specifications of what was the dog park amenities and what was the other part of the park. So there was a little bit of a confusion, and I figured, well, we were told no concrete, so no concrete. And then about a week before the cement was poured, I heard again that the cement, this was July 1st, was going to be poured that following Wednesday. And so that's when we all kind of came up in arms and said, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. We didn't know this was going to happen. So we reached out to Rick Dennison, and we sent emails, and then we all received an email back stating the reasons. First of all, we weren't at the other meetings. Of course, if I was here standing like I am today, one person, I doubt if I could have changed the plans, because a whole group of people couldn't change the plans, so probably wouldn't have made any difference. There were maintenance issues that were brought up, like the gravel and the mower blades, and then the mud and the weeds, and then probably the real doozy was that this will keep the small dogs from digging under and getting to the big side. I mean, that never happened, never will happen. And then we were invited by the deputy town manager to meet on that Monday morning, which we did, and we had another member give 2 proposals. One was to remove the concrete that had been put down, or a second plan was to take part of the large dog park side so that our dogs can run safely with the big dogs in at least one area that would be a natural surface and not concrete. And then we were given the proposal for the expansion, which we thought, great, fantastic. It's a wonderful idea, but it doesn't really solve our problem. We still have the problem. So we gave the proposals to Shane. He took them back and said that they would be discussed. And I said, please keep in contact, because that's been our problem. We haven't had good contact. And I promised to stay in contact, which I did a week later. But a week later, that's when the jackhammers were out, not jackhammering the sidewalk, the part that we wanted removed, but jackhammering the concrete underneath the fence on the side near Warren Vista. So I said, oh, they're going ahead with the expansion project. I am not getting any communication. So I emailed Doug, and I didn't hear anything back from Doug, and I emailed Doug again. I said, hey, before we get going on this, let's do a price comparison, because it's all about budgets. I'm about budgets. What's the cost to remove the cement that you just put down, as opposed to the cost of this project, which now I know what the cost is, and it's a lot of money. And all we were trying to do is save money. We could use that money towards some other part of the park, would have been great. So, like I said, I think we don't want to sound like a bunch of crazy dog park people, but think of it this way. If you poured concrete under the children's playground area, I'm sure there would be a room full of parents here bringing up the safety hazard, right? I mean, for us, it's the same thing. It really is about the functionality of the dog park. It's about function. Form needs to follow function. It's going to look beautiful, I agree, but the dogs don't care if it looks beautiful. We need to have a safe place for our dogs to run. I hope we have no injuries because of this concrete. If we do, that's another issue. Another thing I'm going to bring up is the maintenance issues. We talked about maintenance. If you think about all that urine that's going to be collecting on the concrete, among other things that dogs do, that's going to have to be power washed, probably on not a daily, but a weekly basis, because that's going to get really, that's going to be a health issue. So again, that's just a summary, just so you know where we're coming from. There's someone else that wants to speak, but again, we're grateful for the expansion, but we didn't ask for that much. We were really trying to be, trying to keep this in the budget. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay.
Next.
Leah?
It's nice to see faces to names. Hi, my name is Leah Aguayo. I'm also known as Mrs. A, because I was a teacher in Northern California for 40 years. My husband and I have only been in Yucca Valley we're coming up on a year. And when you go to a new place after 47 years in the Santa Cruz Mountains, building a community of friends and family is very important. I got here, and within probably 2 weeks, I have a little dog. His name is Luigi. And I walked him down to the park. I opened the gate, I unleashed him, and he took off. He was happy, so happy. All new dog friends. I walked up to this group of people that were in the small dog park, and they embraced me. It's an amazing feeling to have built within a year not only dear friends, but family in this dog park. We will do anything for each other. We watch out for each other, we take care of each other. And I just wanted to share, and I'm a new resident of Yucca Valley, that I've seen a lot of things that I have really liked about the town of Yucca Valley and the services that you provide your community and residents, because up north, that just didn't happen. It was too big. And when the kids, the young people came with their iPads to the park, I said, wow, this is so awesome. They're listening to us. They want to hear what we have to say about the remodel of the dog park. And they came 2 or 3 times, I think it was 3 times. And then to have all of this commotion of, you know, the timeline that Myra went over, I just felt a little betrayed. And like, you know, maybe it's not quite as sweet as I feel. And so there are some easy solutions to this problem. And I think some of you go to the large dog park and you've seen it. You can have a toy Yorkshire Terrier and what's the big dogs? The Great Danes. And one will go down and one will look up, and within a minute, they've started, and they just race that fence. Our dogs' paws are going to get ripped up with that cement that's on the middle line. And we all said, we don't want concrete, and we understand. We've had so many solutions for people, you know, put it on the other side, put the poop bags on the other side, the water fountain's there. It would work, and our puppies' paws would not get hurt. The last thing I want to share with you, and I don't think my husband could get up and say this, but his father, they lived in Victorville, went to his sister's house. They were going to go to the show, and she said, oh, Dad, can you go out and feed the dog? He said, sure, Mija. Went out, bent down to give the dog some food and water, and the dog pushed on him. He fell back. I think he was 82, I'm not sure. And he hit his head on the patio where the urine and feces had been gathering from this dog. He died 10 days later because of the bacteria from the urine and the fecal matter getting into his blood system. Like Myra said, we have some folks that come in a walker, folks that come in a chair. Or with a cane, excuse me. We have no wheelchair folks as of yet, but they would be embraced and probably helped along the way. But anyways, it's just the sanitary reasons, the puppy's paws. I guess that's all I have to say, but.
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, thank you.
Anybody else? Is there anybody else online? Up to the council.
All right.
Anybody have questions?
Well, thank you for being here tonight. I appreciate it. Yeah, the gentleman attended the meeting before, did an excellent job bringing up some points that we hadn't considered, and I thought it was very, very enlightening, and we embraced a lot of those. It is unfortunate. Myra did a very good job of recounting the steps and the communication and what transpired. So I would not second guess any of that. That sounded very, very accurate. I do know the social media group is very active and involved, and that's one of the reasons I reached out to them to make sure and let them know about the upcoming meetings. I want to say, first of all, Essex Park is one of the most used and attended and one of our more beautiful parks that we have in Yucca Valley. And I remember as a council member, we got a lot of pushback from people as we were developing that park. And especially we got a lot of pushback from people saying that we're going to include a dog park. And I tried to explain it at the time, it's not a, quote, dog park. It is a gathering place for people who own dogs. And I would agree that I've had better and more communication and community gatherings at the dog park in the evening. I've never run across somebody I haven't had a chance to talk to and engage with. And when you go to a normal park, you really don't do that. You don't sit around and talk to some stranger that might be there, or somebody, you might be with your grandkids, you might interact with a few of them, or your children, and interact with a couple other parents, but that is a great gathering place. And that's what these community centers are supposed to be, gathering places for our community. I really appreciate everyone's input. I want to, and I'm sorry that some of you feel like you've been shortchanged or you feel disappointed, but I also want to remind you of all the big long litany lists of things that you wanted or we wanted for improvements. We heard about how important it is to have the shade. We heard how important it is to have the picnic tables or seating or gathering areas. We heard the importance of having more drinking fountains, and also for our days get short and people don't get off work and all of a sudden it's dark and you don't want to go to a dog park in the dark, so some lighting, and so we could expand some of the usage and so forth. And it gets hot, so you don't want to be there in the middle of the day. You want to go in the coolness of the day. So I hope you will see in the long run that we've made really some great improvements to that park. I want to thank so much Shane and Alex. You can only do what the council tells you to do to enact what's been proposed. I know that we had received updates and improvements and designs, and a lot of the issues were the maintenance issues, keeping the park presentable. I'll also have to tell you, I've gone on many vacations and taken my dog with me, and I've gone to different dog parks, and they are miserable. Some of them are just terrible. We have one of the nicest parks for dogs that I've been to. I have not been to one yet that's better than ours as far as aesthetics and so forth. And I am thrilled with Shane and Alex for taking the extra time to deal with the concerns of the public, who we serve the public, and to take times to go out there and look at some possible solutions to perhaps what they see as a shortcoming with some of the pathways. And I want to really thank you for that. Some people in city government would tell you, well, you had your chance, it's already done, you're going to have to live with it. And that would have been the end of it. But they took time to meet, especially the small dog park area, and to try to find ways to increase at least the turf area for those dogs. And that part of that park was actually rather small in the first place compared to the large dog park area. Also, I want to remind people that a lot of the dog parks I go to do not separate small dogs from large. It's just one park. They don't have the fence fighting thing, but they have their little dogs exposed to these larger dogs. So to include a small dog area, and of course people with small dogs that feel comfortable with larger dogs can be in the large dog area and interact with the larger dogs. So that's a really great improvement. And I'm sorry that perhaps the sidewalks, which I think is wonderful for special needs, accessibility and so forth, has been such a negative thing. I again want to thank the staff so much for addressing the shade issues, the irrigation, improving the turf and the irrigation. A question I had for Alex on the bid or the change order, did that include a bit of a retaining wall that is needed on the edge of the dog park, or are we going to do that in-house later on?
No, the bid that we received includes the installation of the wall and a swale behind it, so we can divert the water away from the mud, basically, away from the new turf area that we're going to be creating.
Okay, and I saw the additional trees being placed in the park, which is wonderful. I'm sure we're going to protect those from the dogs for a while so they won't get ruined or chewed on until they can establish themselves. And I can't wait for it to open up again because I know people really enjoy gathering together. I enjoy bringing my dog up there from time to time. And again, thank you, Shane and Alex, for taking the extra time with our constituents and addressing those issues. As we go on later on, we'll have to find out, exactly the maintenance on urine or the fencing and all those types of things and go from there. Perhaps we can do some type of a cool treatment across the cement area between that, where you do a texture across it that might help improve the safety for pads and also reduce the heat. But again, thank you guys for doing the extra.
Thank you for your comments. I think that's, you're involved in the community, and that's a wonderful thing. I do want to say that I'm a dog person. I've had so many dogs in my life, and we've adopted, gosh, I guess at this point, 8 or 9 rescued greyhounds. And we don't take them to the dog park because, well, I'll explain that in a minute. But we do go to greyhound picnics, and there are other greyhounds there, and everybody kind of keeps their distance. There are probably like 50 or 60 greyhounds there. And the one thing I thought was funny is there's a big park there, and it's all got grass. And then you look over at the dog park at that park, and it's dirt. So it's opposite here, you know. They have grass all over, but they have a dirt dog park. So I thought that was kind of ironic. But the thing about greyhounds is they have really thin skin. So I've always been they get cut easy, and if you cut them like an inch, if they get cut, then it spreads, and it can go to like 8 inches. And I've never been a fan of like fence fighting or playing because dogs can get hurt, you know, running along a fence like that. And I really would like to see in the future, if we could do it, if we have the funds in the future, is some barrier so the dogs can't even see each other at all. They don't know they're there. And then the little dogs just play with the little dogs, and the big dogs just play with the big dogs. And I don't think fence fighting or playing is safe. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Just I'm really happy that Shane and Alex went out there. And I think it's incredible that a project started and then we were able to make these changes. That's pretty unusual. So I think that's kudos to the town. And it might not be perfect, but next time around, you know, we'll improve things more.
All right. Councilman Schooler.
Well, I agree with Councilmember Abel with a number of improvements that we have been able to make. And I appreciate the public comments, and I think Shane alluded to the fact that we will continue to monitor the activity, the actual activity, and not, you know, projected activity, but the actual activity. And if we need to make some adjustment, we'll be able to do that. So with that, I appreciate the comments, appreciate the improvements that have been made, and I would move the item if you're ready to do that, Mayor.
Okay. I'd just like to comment. I feel a little left out. I'm not really a dog person. I'm a cat person, but I can't say that I have a huge opinion on this because I don't know much about dogs. I like the idea that we have a dog park, and it allows people to gather together with a similar interest. And I think it should be maybe reevaluated in the future, and if it is a problem, it needs to be corrected. And I think at this time it's pretty well determined that's where we're headed. So, because there's 3 in favor of it, right? So we need a second. Anybody second?
I will second.
Okay.
Councilmembers Abel,
Yes.
Droz,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Lombardo.
Yes. Okay, on to number 27, the townwide beautification program, street name sign replacement program, purchase approval from Safeway Sign Company. Who's going to be discussing that? Alex?
I will do this, yes.
There you are, Alex.
The recommendation before you tonight is that the town council approves and authorizes the purchase of replacement street name signs from Safeway Sign Company in the amount of $32,662.30, establishes a contingency of $3,570 for a total of $36,163, authorizes staff to purchase all other materials and hardware necessary to install such signs. Just to remind that the town Council's townwide beautification program includes the acceleration of the replacement of the old county street signs with a priority on high visibility areas. So we have surveyed all the zones that we have within the town, and came up to 1,237 signs that need to be replaced. So I just want to remind the council that on November 15 of 2022, the town council amended the fiscal year 22-23 gas tax special revenue fund budget, appropriating $200,000 from Fund 515 gas tax to street maintenance operation account number 515596126, and authorizing staff to go to a formal bid of purchasing the sign materials. This matter also has been reviewed as part of the townwide beautification program, which has occurred on the meeting of November 1st, 2022. That concludes staff report. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions following public comments.
All righty. Is there any public comment on our purchasing of the street name sign replacement program for the townwide beautification program? Anybody have comment on that? Anybody online? Back to council. Anybody on council want to start? Okay.
Just
Councilman Droz.
incredible. It's nice we're doing this. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's wonderful. We still have county signs from, 30 years ago?
Yeah.
And then some of them are green. That's all you can tell. You can't tell what street it is. But it is a safety issue with people trying to find or emergency vehicles or things like that. I know people use GPS a lot. But my question, Alex, is this is all the street signs. I didn't go out to all 1,000, whatever, to see them. But this does not include any of the signs that are missing on Highway 62. That's a whole nother project.
Yes, sir. That is completely another project. We are in contact with Caltrans because the issue with the signs that in the highway is each one of them is a different size. So we are in contact with Caltrans. We ask him to let us know what is the sizes that they will allow, the maximum size, so we can start ordering these signs. We have not heard back from them yet.
Oh, jeez.
And, it's just because of many factors, the yard maybe that is the cannot find the superintendent, but we are in contact with him. We will get that resolved soon. That is now we resolve the issue with our street name signs, so we will work right now. We'll start working on the highway signs. We'll do.
Yes, and my other question is, let's say I'm going down a particular street, a side street. There's a stop sign on both sides, on the left side and on the right side. Will it only be one sign at that intersection, or will there be one on each of those corners?
Will be one in each corner. That is how we count our signs.
All right.
Yes. So it will be well identified after we finish with this project. You know where you're going.
Yep.
I like that. That's a good idea.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman School.
I have one comment and one question. I think this appears to be significantly under budget, which is refreshing and impressive. But Alex, what would be the projected timeframe to get these signs installed? What would you expect to be the completion? I know there's 1,200 and some signs, but what's your timeframe?
That is also depend, at our staffing level, because this is a project that we have, that is the street crew decided to do it themselves. And that is, unfortunately, we are down one person, so hopefully we can its replacement will be happening soon. I'm gonna say we are right now gonna start ordering these signs from the company. And then also we need to order the material that goes with it, the pole and all the fasteners and the bullet and the bolts and everything like that. So I'm gonna say that we're gonna be starting with section 1, and we have 18 sections with it. The town is divided. That is we're gonna be utilizing. So I'm gonna say to be in the safe side that we'll be starting in a couple of months. So you will see section 1, section 1 of the town, and I do not have it here for me to identify what it is, but we will work it as we go because we can order certain amount of signs because we do not have the capability to store 1,237 signs. There will be damaged before they even go anywhere. So our deal with the company that is will deliver to us in like 50 or 100 increment as we go. So that is like going to be taking time. Honestly, I cannot tell you. I wish we can move a magic wand and happen tomorrow, but it can't. So we will, I'm going to be seeing that could be like a year-long project. To be honest, because it's just like it's the timing that takes from the staff to do it, from their other work. It's really about a year.
Yeah, the question I would have, and maybe Councilmember Schooler has another one, but my question is this something that we want to look into, perhaps subcontracting out or contracting out? They have a crew, that's all they do is signs, not take away from our staff time on potholes and crack repairs and everything else. We're very limited. We only have a few guys out there working. So is that something we might look into, contracting the work?
So one of the concerns, and we had this conversation with the field crews, one of the concerns on the street name signs here is created by the wind loads that we have. And the town staff here is very familiar with how to do a good job of installation so that the winds don't cause them to come loose and be damaged and destroyed. And that's why staff wanted to do this on their own and not have a contractor come in and not do a good job, and then we end up having to go back and fix their work. If it ends up that we're not able to perform timely, those are my words, we'll look at an alternative, staff will look at an alternative way of getting those signs installed in a timely manner. So, we'll keep our fingers crossed that we don't have the same rainstorms that we had last year, and we have 18 events where we're out, 13 events where we're out scraping roads, those types of things that impact the street crew. We know it's a council priority, and we will keep it as a priority. If we start having difficulties, we'll look at an alternative way to approach it.
I appreciate that.
I have a question. Everybody done with questions? Okay. The thing that we're approving right now is for $36,163. That does not include the poles and the hardware, is that correct?
That's correct.
And do we have an estimate of how much that's going to cost us or is that?
Yes.
Okay.
It's about the same amount.
About the same amount, okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. I'll make the motion we approve.
I'll second.
Council members Abel,
Yes.
Droz,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Lombardo.
Yes. All right, and we are now on to item number 28, special events in single-family residential zones. Who's going to discuss that with us?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The council recently requested that staff bring this item before the town council for discussion and possible direction to staff and the planning commission. So this is the council's first opportunity to discuss these policy issues since you directed staff to bring it forward. As the council is aware, in your development code or zoning code, as some people refer to it, you have the town divided into different zoning districts: general commercial, multifamily residential, industrial, as well as several single-family residential zones. And in your code, there are what's referred to as use tables, and the use tables for the residential zones are included in your packet this evening. The code is structured very similar to many other communities throughout California, to where single-family residential zones prioritize the single-family lifestyle, single-family characteristics. The town has everything from 7,000 square foot, zoning for 7,000 square foot single-family homes, all the way up to a minimum size of 20 acres per single-family zone. And you can see the types of uses that are allowed. Staff has also included the other regulations that describe and allow for uses within those zones. So whether it's accessory solar, accessory wind, you have a large animal district overlay zone, which allows for a higher density of large animals in some areas of town. You have ordinances that allow for the keeping of exotic animals in your residential zones, wireless communication facilities, and then finally short-term vacation rentals. In your staff report, staff spent a little bit of time outlining home occupations and what your home occupation ordinance allows to occur in single-family homes. And that kind of gives you a picture of the level of impact that the ordinance allows for, whether it's customers per day, vehicles per day, items being sold, or whether it's just someone who's conducting business via the internet and telephone, and there are no customers, there are no items sold from the property. And that range of activities is provided for. The town's codes allow for special activities in commercial zones, but not in residential zones. So that would require an amendment to your development code that would take a minimum of one public hearing by the Planning Commission and one public hearing by the Town Council. Staff outlined just one example this evening in the staff report of how the council ultimately may choose to amend the current special event ordinance. And you'll see in the underlined section beginning on page 1105, where it talks about residential, commercial, special events in the different zones, talks about a minimum lot size of 2.5 acres. An event could last for 2 days, and a person would be allowed 4 events on an annual basis. And then it goes into some other language which would apply to those types of activities and some of the examples of restrictions or regulations that would be put in place. This is a discussion for the council for your single-family residential zones. This is not a discussion of short-term vacation rentals tonight. So some of the points that the council may want to talk about, we've outlined with bullets on stamp page 1106. What residential zones are appropriate? Is there a minimum lot size that you're thinking about? How many guests should be allowed at some form of special event? How many events annually can be held? Should there be restrictions on the hours of operations? You see in the home occupation regulations that you have, those hours of operation are very restricted so that those commercial activities or what could appear to be a commercial activity doesn't affect the surrounding neighborhood. Who is the appropriate approval authority? Is it a staff level approval, or for a large event, is it something that should actually go to the Planning Commission? Should there be monitoring? Should there be monitoring of noise, parking, trash? Should there be a requirement for security? And these are standard issues that are addressed with other cities that have special events in residential zones. A number of these issues are very commonly seen in those. So again, the code does not allow for special events in residential zones today. The council asks that this item come before you for policy discussion and direction. Staff has just laid out a few of the issues, and I'm sure the council has many more that you would like to potentially discuss this evening. The more direction the council can provide gives staff and the Planning Commission greater detail to work with. But your direction may be staff take it to the Planning Commission, hold a public hearing, take public input, and start the process moving forward. So there's a broad range of directions the council could give this evening on this matter. That concludes the staff report, and we would be happy to answer any questions following public testimony.
Okay. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak on this? Please make sure you've filled out a card. You can speak first, but fill out a card so we know who you are and what your position is. Please come to the mic and state your name and city of residence. I've got to restrict to 3 minutes, okay?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Not well. Make sure you're on and
The other way.
keeps.
Should be green.
Whoops, 1 second, Jim. We got it now?
I hope so.
Yep, we do. Okay, very good, Jim.
My name's Dennis Pask. I live in Yucca Valley the past 22 years. I'm a member of the Boulder Ridge community up here on the ridgeways full of rocks and boulders. And in our residential area, we strongly disapprove of having any further commercialization of our neighborhood. We have a very big problem right now with short-term rentals. This would only exacerbate that problem. We've for many years had a very quiet community. Everybody knows each other. And since the short-term rentals began proliferating, we now have 7 homes with long-term owner-occupied residents and 10 short-term rentals. It's affected the speeding on our roadways. These are narrow dirt roads with blind hills and blind curves. We've gotten a lot of squash bunnies, squash snakes, turtles, quail, simply because the renters love to speed on dirt roads. And because these are dirt roads, the city does not maintain the dirt roads nor take any responsibility for the dirt roads, and yet the city keeps issuing permits for short-term rentals, which are destroying our steep dirt roads. I mean, it's great to own property and be able to make money off your rentals. I'm sure the city enjoys getting paid for the permits and the taxes that are generated, but we end up with roads that are a mess because of these policies. So we are strongly opposed to any commercial special events being held in short-term rentals or in otherwise. You know, our residential neighborhood has become a business concern. And with all the traffic and noise and problems that have followed that. So we're opposed to this. We would like to make no changes in the development code and to retain the prohibition on commercial special events and single-family residences.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anybody else wishing to speak? Please come to the podium, state your name, city of residence, and fill out a form when you're done. Okay.
Hello, my name's Karen Post. I'm a clinical psychologist and reside primarily in Los Angeles. I've been doing that work for 35 years. And I used to bring my family all the time, my children, and all of us came to the high desert from the time they were very little. And in 2015, I decided to buy a beautiful property here in Yucca Valley to kind of be a refuge and an extension of some of the healing work that I do in my practice, but also to have, not to do that work, but to have a place that is where we could all unplug from city life. And so that was wonderful. And then a couple of years later, I applied for it to be an STVR, again with the intention and the execution of it being a kind of vacation rental that was peaceful, tranquil, filled with serenity. It explicitly says on our listing, this is not a party house. Our neighbors have spoken actually at town council meetings before and said this is an amazing place. We love that it's there. And so it's a peaceful place. I believe that allowing, I don't know about all events, and there can be events, I presume, that could be disruptive, but it's very important to me, that's why I bought a property here, that the peaceful nature of the residential neighborhoods is maintained and that it's kept. And so I do believe, however, that changing the code to allow for, in particular, low-impact wellness events where people gather, not exorbitantly large numbers of people, they gather, they come together for wellness, for health, for their minds, bodies, and spirits. I think that is a value added to the community and in all ways, and brings people, peaceful people, peace-loving people who want to enjoy the desert serenity and beautiful nature to come here. So I think if it's done the right way, and for example, in my own personal interest, my property is on 2.25, beautiful acres. I think if a property is big enough and follows all the ordinances, all the regulations, sound, light, perhaps has never had any of those complaints against them before. And maybe there might be some other rules or regulations that could be put into effect to make sure that any event, a low-impact event is what I'm really in favor for happening. I see that as only a benefit to Yucca Valley and all the people who want to come here and enjoy it in a peaceful, respectful way, being respectful of the residential qualities, which are so important to all of us.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Next, is there anybody else that wants to speak? Please come to the podium. Speak your mind. We're trying to keep it to 3 minutes. Speak.
I'll be brief.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Stephen Weir,
Please speak into the microphone.
Sorry, my name is Stephen Weir, and just wanted to speak. I do own a short-term vacation rental property here. I am in Yucca Valley 3 days a week, and I go back and forth, and I think when my wife retires from teaching at school, that we probably will end up here. But I also agree with the last speaker that one size doesn't fit all on the regulations. I think there are a lot of activities like wellness retreats or yoga retreats that would not be problematic in the neighborhood. And I think it would be prudent to examine what the right regulations would be to keep this type of activity and to promote visitation to Yucca Valley. For example, if something is likely to be higher impact, you'd have to have different rules for it. A writer's retreat wouldn't have the same rules as a wedding, for example, but I think it's worth examining and setting up a set of rules, and hopefully we can do that respectfully within the single-family residence. That's it.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else who wishes to comment? Please come to the podium, state your name, city of residence, fill out a little form when you're done. Thank you.
Will do. Hello, my name is Anton Goss, and I'm a business owner in town. I have the Acme 5 Lifestyle Furniture Store, and I also have a short-term rental property up by Skyline. We have 133 acres, and we're just a pristine, beautiful area. And actually, Stephen's my partner in it. And let me just read from here so I can keep it concise. We've been operating this Airbnb for the last 2 years and have been in good standing with all of our neighbors. We are definitely not a party house. We screen our people like crazy, and we make sure that we are in good stead with our neighbors, both because it makes sense financially, and also because we want to show our face around town. You can't, it's a small town, and we have to hold our head high here. So, however, having said that, there's a lot of things that can be beneficial from short-term rental, weddings, wellness retreats, if they're done small, if the noise ordinance are observed, if they're not loud amplified noise. We have like folk singers. I mean, there's a way to do it, and there's a way to also make the town sort of on the map in terms of a cultural place, a place where we get known for artistic endeavors. It's not just a wild party thing. So I think, as Stephen said, it's not a one-size-fits-all. I think there's ways to do a transportation plan. You can shuttle people in. You can have that chaperoned. It doesn't have to be a free-for-all. And so in closing, I'll just say I'd like the town to consider that, and we can be good stakeholders with you guys. I worked in events for many years, and there's ways to make these events make sense. It's just a plan, and you have to follow the rules, and it can be done correctly. Now, on 133 acres. Obviously, I'm biased because I've got a large property and our neighbors are super far away. So we can get away with more and it can be much quieter and we won't impact anyone. On a 1 acre, that's a much different situation. So I think it is a case-by-case basis. And I think there's a lot of room for the town to benefit florists, other people staying in town. There's massage therapists, there's people eating in restaurants. It can bring a lot of activity to town if it's done correctly. And that's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Anybody else? Please come forward, state your name and city of residence.
Hello, my name is Julie Robson, and I live here in Yucca Valley. I've been a resident for about 7 years now, and I just wanted to share my support as well. These last 3 people kind of took all my talking points already, but I just wanted to get up here and say that I do agree with them. It would be a wonderful thing to have low-impact wellness events here in Yucca Valley. It would be good for the community. I also agree that it's not a one-size-fits-all situation, depending on the size and things like that, the neighborhood. So I definitely would like to hear more discussion from the council. I see Jeff on Nextdoor telling people to come to the meetings and show their support, so that's why I wanted to come and do this in person and just show my support for the issue. And I am looking forward to hearing more discussion, even what is an event considered? It could be, is it a birthday party for great grandma where 50 family members come? So it just kind of depends. There's lots of discussion, I think, that still needs to be had. But I'm glad that the discussion is starting. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else? Seeing none, is there anybody online? All right, let's bring it back to council. Start with Councilmember Droz.
Thanks for all the comments. When I first looked at this, what I'm really looking at, what I envision is nothing commercial, nothing business. You don't charge for tickets. You don't charge to go to this. This might be a granddaughter or grandson or a daughter or son that has visited their grandparents for 20 years and is getting married, and it's a family event, not something, that would be repeated every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. So to me, this is more of a small time thing. I think like maybe 2 events a year per residence would be fair. But what I really think is the collective wisdom of the Planning Commission would be best to review this. And I think it has to be an owner-occupied property for something that's just going to be big, like a wedding or a birthday, and a certain amount of people. I don't know what that number is. That's what the Planning Commission, they're really good at figuring that stuff out. And how many times a year? I'm thinking like 2 times a year, but that's up to the Planning Commission to bring back to us. So I remember when Joshua Tree Retreat Center was doing concerts a few years back. That's about 3 miles from my house. And the Joshua Tree Retreat Center, they had loud music and it was a lot of bass. And you could hear it at my house 3 miles away. So I think whether it's in a residential neighborhood or it's, say, 1,000 acres, something with booming music, you're going to hear for many miles out here. And it just needs to be small. That's all I think. And I'd like the Planning Commission to look at it. Thanks.
Councilmember Abel.
Well, if I could carve it in stone, I would take these 2 quotes I heard tonight. First of all, if done correctly. That's the key right there, if done correctly. And the other one is this discussion is just starting. So this is just the first opening discussion and dialogue that we're going to have. We heard how important it is to get feedback from the community. Do we have our legal counsel on the line?
Should be.
I believe both Tom and Chad were planning on being available this evening.
Yes, I'm here. Tom Jex is here.
Thank you, Tom. Councilmember Droz brought up a very important point that a family get-together, a family event, your daughter's getting married, you want to have the wedding in the backyard, you're having a 50th wedding anniversary for your parents, those types of things. Those types of things would be very problematic for us as a community or a town to take away somebody's property rights if they're not charging for a fee, correct? I mean, if they want to have a 50th wedding anniversary at their home, or they want to have their own family and friends and there's no fee involved, it would be sort of problematic to require them to have a permit. Is that correct?
Most ordinances that I've reviewed don't typically require a permit for a smaller event or a smaller family, private gathering event for a birthday party or something similar. So I think, and I even think staff's proposal would be to require a permit for more larger gatherings or more commercial events or money-making events.
Okay, yeah, and I agree. I like the idea of smaller events, and then you have to clarify what's a small event versus a large. But I like the idea of not even requiring a permit for a small event of, let's say, 20 people or less that are having a yoga gathering, or they're having a writers conference at their home or whatever, and there might be a fee involved. Those low impact type of events probably go on right now, and it would be hard to ask them to get a permit or try to figure out they even had an event, because if it's truly low impact, people aren't calling or complaining or worried. I am concerned, as you said, with larger events because of traffic flow, with the ongoing events going on every weekend. I mean, and so forth. So, those larger events oftentimes require parking issues, traffic flow issues. They deal with noise. They deal with amplified music or microphones. And so I do think we have to protect our community, our residents, and require, if done correctly, would have to pull a permit to be able to do any type of a large event. What kind of restrictions we want to put on it and those types of things, that's up for discussion. But I think gatherings of 20 or less that are low impact, that they may charge a fee because you hire a person to do a paint party, and you hire and then you charge your friends and family and neighbors and so forth $5 to come and paint in the backyard. 20 or less, I don't think that's very impactful on our community. But having a big, huge drum circle event or having a large wedding, again, 133 acres, that might be a fine place to have it, but 1 acre is definitely not going to be. Or like the gentleman said, they have a bunch of homes around them that might be used, and having a large event all the time and traffic and dirt road impacts is problematic. So, but I just want to clarify the private use, no fee. I think it's problematic to try to require a permit. Other things in law enforcement like noise ordinance, you have your daughter's wedding, but it goes on till 3 in the morning and you're blasting music, yeah, the cops are going to be there, and that's a whole nother issue. But they didn't necessarily have to pull a permit. But if you're charging a fee and it's large, then I think we need to have some type of permitting if we're going to allow it at all.
Councilman Schooler?
I appreciate the comments that were made tonight by the people that came in, and I would add one more comment to that list that should be carved in stone, is that one size doesn't fit all. We heard that. And our development code is a pretty complex document, and staff was gracious enough to put so much of that into the staff report, and it just kind of illustrates how a little change can have a domino effect, and all the what ifs. When you consider all the what ifs on even something like this, you can get really complicated in trying to address the issue, which I would say address a problem. It's not necessarily a problem. I think we got to look at the big picture too. For years and years and years, Yucca Valley was looking for its economic driver, and coming up empty for a lot of years. And suddenly, and not so suddenly, but it was kind of the result of some work by a lot of people and a lot of agencies. Tourism just sort of emerged as the economic driver in Yucca Valley. It generates a lot of commerce, and we were looking for that, quite frankly. Communities go forward or they go backward, and they just don't stay the same, no matter how much we would want them to do that. So not having a freeway to transport goods, and not having a rail, not having an airport, not having those kinds of things that a lot of communities have to generate commerce, we settled in, or were sort of forced to realize that tourism was probably, if we were to have an economic driver, it would be tourism. And so much of that tourism is events. And whether they're held in commercial areas or in homes, events bring people to town. And when people come to town, they spend money in our town. They stay in our hotels or whatever. They eat in our restaurants. They buy gas. They buy food. They shop in our stores. So all that to say is I see the events, special events issue as being a big part of tourism. And I know that a lot of events take place that we don't even address in terms of permit, but weddings, there's so many different personalities of the parcels, the residential parcels in this community. There are some homes that just lend themselves to a great venue for a wedding. They have great yards. They might even be smaller parcels, but usually they're a little bit bigger. And they've got landscape features. They've got a setup that just lends itself to a very attractive venue for a wedding. And maybe that could be okay to have people rent that out, part of their home, part of their yard for a wedding. I think that should be okay. I think that that doesn't really interfere with life in Yucca Valley necessarily. And the smaller events, the family events, family events at 20 people or so, a lot of families have more than 20 people when everybody gets together. It could go, 30 wouldn't even be an outrageous number in my mind, to make that okay without a permit. That those things should be okay. And I just don't want to see a whole lot of bureaucracy where we need to have permits for every little thing that takes place in town. And so we should be able to support what people want to do in this town and what will bring people to Yucca Valley, and without a whole lot of layers of approval. So I'm in favor of lowest level of approval that we can come up with. Now, back to the development code being a very complex document, I would hope that as we're required to kick this item with some council direction back to the Planning Commission and then back to the council. So that's going to happen. But I would hope that we could do so with a spirit of supporting events in town and some consideration for the size of the parcel, the nature of the event, whether it's a retreat, whether it's a health and wellness function, whether it's a wedding, whatever. I think we should keep in mind the big picture, and that really is good for our community to have people visit our community. We've got some momentum. We haven't fully realized our potential, I don't think, but we do have momentum, and we could put the halt to that momentum. This is kind of a season right now. We're coming into the fall where people are making plans for events in the other months, the months when we are more popular, when the park's more popular, when people are coming to visit our community. But people need to make plans for that. So I would hope we could expedite this and support events as much as possible. Let me see if I've touched on everything. Just kind of want to emphasize how diverse our parcels are, our residential parcels are in town in terms of size, personality, features. They just lend themselves to an awful lot of appreciation for this natural beauty that we have here. And I just don't think we should step on our own toes in terms of the big picture and the economic impact of events. So I guess that's it for me for now. Might come back.
All right, it was good discussions. I think that there should be some accommodation for events in owner-occupied parcels, residences, that sort of thing. I think we need more excuses to bring people together than limit their ability to come together. And I think that one thing that I hadn't really considered was these multiple day events, like what happened at the where they set up the tents out at it was outside of the town of Yucca Valley, but I hadn't considered that. That's in the way that I would think it would have to be a very large parcel. It was discussed tonight where there was a very large parcel that somebody said and the neighbors are nowhere nearby. I think we kind of need to have some ability in our town to have those kind of events. And the Planning Commission can look at it and see how it's done in other communities. And I think the important things are that we're flexible and that if it needs to be revised, that it can be revised relatively easily. The idea of expediting it is fine in my mind as long as we have the ability to alter it if we find out we've made a mistake, because we're not infallible. But we need to find a way to change with the times and the way that things are changing. And people spend so much of their time on just a single screen that events that bring people together for wellness, for yoga. I've recently just gotten into yoga and I am finding it to be a wonderful thing. And I encourage it. I want to see it happen more. I think it brings peace of mind and discovery of self and all sorts of things that will bring about a better world. But it starts with individuals, and we need to gather individuals together because the energy increases when there's people together. I think it should be based on size of parcels and number of times, but like I say, I want to be able to revise it as we find it creates a problem. I'd rather find a way to allow it, discover what the problems are and correct the problems than not to allow it at all. And so that's kind of where I sit. I think the Planning Commission should look at it. We should look at where it's worked successfully in other places, adopt those ideas and make it happen here, and be able to revise it, because we're not Malibu and we're not, other places. But I think we have such beautiful areas that would lend themselves to things like weddings. And I don't know, I recently retired and it would have been nice to have all the people I knew and all the people I helped come to a party. I would have enjoyed that greatly, but it probably was way over the limits. So I'm not that kind of person, but it could have been a large crowd. So, and it would have been, those things are uplifting. I think it's important to have those available. I don't know. I think that it needs to be investigated further. I would like to have more public input on it. I appreciate the people that spoke today. We just need more of that. And I feel bad about what happened with the dog park where, we thought we were reaching out but it still went like a train. It didn't happen the way that the people that contributed thought it should maybe. Our staff really does try to meet our requirements, and when things like that happen, I take it as a personal failure, so, of communication. So please be sure to reach out. Please be sure to make your comments viable, and I will make every effort to make sure that we are paying attention. I know I will. Thank you.
Well, I think, again, if we do move towards, and we're talking about events where there's fees involved, and not talking about a personal wedding reception and so forth for your own family, but we do need to have a real good permitting process to protect our residents. And again, it has to be explored through the planning department, or planning commission, and get more community feedback. Again, I think there's got to be a definition of low-impact, small events. And again, I'm with you. I don't like over-regulation. I like people to have property rights, their ability to use their property, but yet they also have to be respectful to their neighbors. And so, again, I think we're starting the discussion very well, and Councilmember School, I added one more to carve into stone. One size doesn't fit all, so I got 3 of them now to work on.
I have one more comment or suggestion or something actually I want the Planning Commission to consider is we have to remember these are residential neighborhoods. And what's really important is frequency. I think more than size. If you have a party 2 doors down, or a yoga retreat, or an artist retreat, that's fine. But let's say when you consider the art tour in the Morongo Basin, they do that every year. It's 2 weekends, I believe, every weekend. But what if they did it every week? And all those cars going up and down the road every week. And just like Dennis said, he has problems with, I've talked to Dennis before, I actually went to his house, and they have problems with people speeding down their roads that are unmaintained dirt roads. So Yucca Valley does not maintain them, but the roads are getting ruined. And dust is kicked up, and animals are run over because people are driving too fast. So I think the one word that I really want to stick with is frequency. How often is it going to happen? If it's going to be every weekend, every other weekend, every month, I mean, that's something for the Planning Commission to decide, but I think that's an important word. Thanks.
If I could chime in a little bit on that item, give a little bit different perspective. I think in terms of frequency, when I was looking at the home occupation permit, it seemed to me we permit home occupations to take place with as many as 12 customers a day coming to the residence. If somebody has a home occupation, is that correct, Shane? I thought I saw that.
In one of the categories.
Okay, in one of the categories. So that's quite a bit of frequency already in place. 12 cars coming per day. So I think we need to temper that with and kind of incorporate some consistency with special events when we're talking about that. And I think some places, and I would like this to be considered by the Planning Commission, some parcels, and if it's 100 plus acres, lend themselves to events more than others, that are impacted into smaller neighborhoods. And if one permit could be issued and maybe some way to just touch base and have that permit apply to several different events that take place in a case like that, or where it lends itself to that, where there's a lot of acres and maybe a low impact event, that it wouldn't have to be the full permit process every single time, and that a permit could be issued and then a box could be checked with multiple events if those are permitted. And I would encourage in some of those cases that multiple events be encouraged or permitted because they have so little impact on the neighborhood. So just want to add that.
I'd like to also comment that whatever we decide the requirements are, if we decide to allow this at all, that the penalties for violation of the conditions be severe enough that it would limit the person's ability to have a permit again in the future, so that it really encourages adherence to the conditions under which a permit is allowed. So if they're exceeding the noise limit, or they're parking on the streets, or the crowd gets rowdy and, doesn't disperse after a certain time, those kind of things would be severe enough to limit future permits to that homeowner or property owner. And, but I think we should allow a lot of things until we find it's a problem. I really think that individual homeowners should have a right to do things that make sense to them on their property. And if they have a big enough piece of property to contain the cars for the people that are going to be at the thing, and they can do safe and sanitary things on the property, let them do it. And when it becomes a problem, make the penalty severe enough that they don't do it again. So I think we're pretty much in agreement that we want to send this for a little further discussion. I would like to see some community involvement if we can. I don't know, workshops or however that is addressed. More input from the public is always welcome to me. And
Do we have enough direction for staff at this point?
sound pretty good?
Yes, sir.
Could you maybe review the direction, Shane, that you've heard?
Well, you've
They're all
had
over the place.
four different council members speaking this evening. One council member that has identified frequency as a very critical issue, not necessarily the size. That needs to be discussed by the Planning Commission. Family events being completely separated out from commercial events. I would like to see small events not required to have a permit at all. Maybe that number is 20, maybe that number moves from that 20, but 20 was thrown out on the table. Large events need a permit. Private use, no fee, no permits. Large needs a permit. One size doesn't fit all. The development code is complicated, big picture. So this is not a simple issue. And I think it's important that as you do send this to the Planning Commission, that you understand what you're talking about doing is putting a commercial activity in a residential zone. Your general plan doesn't work well with that. Your development code doesn't work well with that. And the question is going to be, between planning staff and legal staff, how does that happen? And it may not be a simple answer, because the way zoning works in California, based upon your general plan, is not simple. But we understand the council's desire on this issue, and we will be looking at that. The council's talked about what is our economic driver, what is that big picture, how tourism has emerged, and how do we make something like this happen. So there's been a number of issues identified. Staff has taken notes this evening, and all of those notes will be provided to the Planning Commission when they start their dialogue.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, and I think that was, let's see here. Don't want to leave anything out. Sorry, too many pages in this book today. Okay. All right, that was the end of the department discussions. Future agenda items. Is there any future agenda items for our council? Okay, so we'll skip on. Public comments. This is the time for the public to comment on any subject not on the agenda. The town council takes this time to consider your comments on items of concern which are not on the agenda. When you are called to speak, please state your name, community of residence. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Inappropriate behavior which disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting will result in forfeiture of your public comment privileges. The Town Council is prohibited by state law from taking action or discussing items not on the printed agenda. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on a public comment?
Mayor Pro Tem, we have a couple of requests to speak here. The first one is Aaron Campbell Alvarez.
Okay. Come to the podium, state your name and community of
Good
residence.
evening. Thank you for allowing me this time to speak. My name is Erin Campbell Alvarez, and I am a Landers resident. Me and my husband, we have a local art gallery and gift shop named Goat Mountain Co. in Old Town Yucca Valley. Our issue is we have a hot pink cow that we bring out when we're open, which is about 20 hours a week. And we recently got cited that we need to take our cow down. So I just want to know how we could work on dealing with it, because it's an art exhibit, it's temporary, it's actually for sale. So, we live in an artist community, and when I see art on the street, things like that, like, it really makes me happy to live in this town. So I just want to know if there's a way that we could work on talking about public art and exhibits like that, especially since it's temporary.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Next we have Didier Chevalier.
Hello. Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and member of the council. My name is Didier Chevalier. I've been a resident of Yucca Valley for the last 23 years. Climate change has seen many of our Joshua tree dying or losing limb. This happened recently to the lot owned by the Gresham family, where I am a tenant and a caretaker. It's in the back of 55363 29 Palm Highway on the entrance of town. I was told we do not have the right to clean the mess created by the dead limb that fell to the ground. I would like to see someone qualified to give us a permit to haul dead branch to the dump before it becomes an eyesore. Please allow us to bury our dead. As we're on the subject, the entrance of town looked like a battlefield where carcasses have been left rotten away under the sun. This is truly appalling. I relate to a poor image of our city to anyone traveling on the highway, especially the block east of Kickapoo, starting on the right past the corner restaurant on parcel 203 and 202, owned by Alex Valdez, who owned the restaurant as well. Those two lots are not taking care of it and have several fallen limbs of Joshua tree. Now we go across the street and where the park and ride reside. There are two lots that require our attention. The 105, which is owned by Frank Choi, 1.2 acres, and the other one, 1.6, owned by the city of Yucca Valley, which is 0.64 acres. Both of those lots contain multiple dead Joshua trees rotten away. Some of those trees have been there for 20 years. It is dreadful, and I feel like the council should intervene in this situation and include this in a town-wide beautification program. A few months back, you sent notice to all the business on the highway to clean up their yard and get rid of the weed. You also distributed some free hulas to facilitate the cleanup. However, I have not seen any improvement nor any enforcement on this subject. I will leave the clerk some pictures of said dead and injured Joshua tree in consultation for consultation of your convenience. Please feel free to contact me if you need any more information, and also let me know what the city intent concerning these matters are. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wish to speak? Anybody online?
On the back and everything, so
Thank you, everyone, for attending. It was nice to get such feedback. I think we did well today on that. Are there any staff reports and comments?
Deborah, any comments this evening? Sergeant from the Sheriff's Office.
Captain Ward couldn't be here tonight. He had a small family emergency that he had to take care of, so he asked me to come in this evening. The only thing that we have to report is next week is the beginning of school. Some of the things that have happened within the Sheriff's Department, we have 2 school resource officers for the entire Morongo Basin, one being specifically for Yucca Valley and the other for 29 Palms.
Nice.
They've combined their efforts, so you're going to see some upstaffing during that full first week of school, with an addition of our traffic units, again, one for 29 Palms, one for Yucca. We're going to pull from both cities to upstaff our traffic enforcement during that full first week of school for both jurisdictions. So you're going to see a lot more deputies out and about just to hopefully keep the flow of the traffic in and around the schools, the kids and the travelers safe.
Great.
So that's all I have.
Great. We want to thank you for your efforts.
Thank you very much. Mayor and Council, Sue has at least one comment she'd like to make this evening.
Busy girl.
Good evening. Just wanted to let the public know that we're still accepting registration for our Color Fun Run, 5K run and 2K walk at Macris Park this Saturday, 9 a.m. We're going to have a pop-up splash zone, water slides, kiddie pools. We're going to spray everyone with colored water and have a great time. And the best news ever, the weather.com says 78 degrees, partly cloudy at run time.
Wow.
So couldn't get
Nice.
better. Come out and run with us.
Loves you.
Yeah, right, exactly. So get signed up. We already have 75 people signed up. We're going to have a great time out there. So encouraging everyone to go ahead and register for the fun run this weekend. Thank you.
Love your enthusiasm.
Mayor and Council, just a couple comments this evening. Tonight, one of your agenda items was for CEQA Addendum Number 3 on the Prop 68 project. Just wanted to pass along a kudos to PlaceWorks, who is the town's contract CEQA consulting firm. They had been working with town staff on that CEQA documentation on a deadline for submittal with our solar grant to the state. They had a significant family emergency, and they had to leave the office, but they actually came back to the office. They knew about the town's deadline, and they ensured that the town was able to meet that deadline. And it's those types of professional services that the town thoroughly enjoys using, and we just wanted to pass along kudos to PlaceWorks for their efforts on that. A lot of discussion with Frontier this evening on their fiber optic cable and what they're providing. I want to remind the council, and you'll probably remember back during COVID, there were numerous comments by individuals that had relocated out of the urban core areas during COVID. They came out here, and the number one issue that they talked about and that was creating difficulty for them was the lack of quality internet access to transfer documents back and forth. So as Frontier moves forward, it's a huge, huge, huge issue for the town. And finally, a question was asked on the street name signs tonight. We're going to follow up, double check at the next meeting. Typically on your Yucca Valley residential streets, your typical 26, 28 feet of asphalt, you have one sign placed at the intersection. When you get onto your major arterials like Onaga, Yucca Trail, those types of intersections, you will possibly have two. We will follow up with you on those locations. That concludes staff's comments this evening, Mayor and Council.
Okay, thank you. Do we have council comments? Let's start with Councilman Droz.
I just want to say it was really a pleasure to see so many people here for so many varied reasons. A lot of times there's one subject and a lot of people show up for that and then they leave. And a lot of times there's nobody out there, but all of you showed up for different subjects and you're actually staying to the end of the meeting. So thank you for doing that. And those of you that commented at the end of the meeting with questions, I would suggest you at least go to see Shane and get his card so you can talk to him about your issues. And I hope everybody has a good 3 weeks till we have our next meeting. So thank you for being here.
Councilmember Abel.
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank staff so much for the wonderful Concerts in the Park series. They did a fantastic job. It was well attended. I think the Fleetwood Mac band had the biggest attendance of the year, but the other ones I saw a real increase in people dancing and enjoying the evenings. It's just amazing. We want to thank all of our sponsors, our major sponsors, and those that stepped it up to provide that music free of charge to our residents. It goes by too quickly, so maybe we can add another concert in the future. But anyway, I wanted to thank those that attended, those that sponsored. I wanted to thank all the hardworking staff that gets there early to set up. We had food vendors there, so there was a variety of food to enjoy. And it always amazes me. We live in Yucca Valley, but I think we have the best turf and the best grass of any community. It's just amazing. I can't even keep my plants alive, and this staff does a great job in providing a wonderful field for us to enjoy that activities on. Thank you for the Sheriff's Department and the first responders. I want to remind people to really talk to your loved ones about the fentanyl issue. We had 4 deaths just recently in the community. It seems like young people don't think it's going to be harmful, and yet it's killing people or almost killing a lot of them, and there's a lot of heartache going on. So please talk to your children about fentanyl and that it's nothing to mess with. Show them the obituaries that have been shown in the paper on Z1077. They think they're invincible, but it's deadly. And the drug dealers that are profiteers put out bad product and people die. So please talk to them. Also, please talk to your loved ones, especially your young children. We've seen an increase in mental health issues and suicide going up with our young people. And please just take the time to really communicate with them. Again, we're glad to have some cooler weather for the fun run up at the Macros Park run. And like you said, it's going to have a splash zone. It's going to be a fun event. If you don't want to run, come in and support and see what it's all about. Maybe you can walk or jog the next time. Also, I want to remind our residents that the 3rd Saturday of each month, our county of San Bernardino collects hazardous waste in Joshua Tree. And so that's a time with cooler weather now to go into your garage, get all those old paint cans, the oil. Some people think that's a desert and they can just dump stuff outside into the soil or dump it out. Well, we have the county that's going to take your pesticides, going to take your waste, your hazardous waste. That goes from 9 to 1. On Saturday, the 3rd Saturday of every month. So I thank the county for continuing to do that. Again, we also have opportunities for you to turn in your electronic waste free of charge as well. So look into all those things, and let's keep our desert clean.
Very nice. Councilman Schooler.
Okay, I'd like to thank Councilmember Abel for bringing up the fentanyl issue. It is serious, and we have some somber statistics in our community, but also want to acknowledge the Sheriff's Department, which has responded and been able to administer Narcan and save some lives, and they respond quickly and professionally, and they've been able to respond. So we thank you guys for that, and we've always prided ourselves, excuse me, in having a safe community, and our Sheriff's Department does a great job with that, and we just thank you for all that you guys do. Beyond that, thank you to Frontier for the presentation and the grades that they're going to put into our community. We appreciate that, and thank you to everybody that showed up to speak on behalf of their issue tonight.
All right, well, I think we covered quite a bit there. I enjoyed the concerts in the park, and hopefully next year we can look into some good bands and maybe some things to extend it a little bit. One of the ideas I'd like to see happen is something like a open mic night. I've always enjoyed that in town, and thought maybe we could expand some of the concerts in the park with something like that, where you get a roster of people and have them come up and sing a few songs. It's pretty entertaining to do. Right now, I have to go out of town down in Morongo, but I enjoy doing that, and I would think that that might be a good idea, but I need some public comment on those ideas. We've got so many things happening in town if you're looking for them. So keep in touch with the website. The town website has all sorts of activities, from the youth things to adult activities. Senior Center's active, and I went over there recently. Hasn't been all that recent, but not too long ago, with my mother-in-law. And we had a really good time there, and chair yoga and all sorts of other things. It was kind of fun. So encourage you to be involved. Have a safe time with school starting. Be cautious of the kids on the street. Thank you to our sheriff and first responders for their aid in our community, keeping it safe. We have always had a really good relationship with our sheriff's department, and we respect what you do. And the respect has gone both ways, and I think that's really been helpful in maintaining the level of service that we want in our community, and we applaud you for what you're doing. And the staff has been outstanding. It's just a flood of stuff. So many things happening all at the same time, different projects. There's lots of building going on in town. You can see a lot of it is on the website, I think, the different projects, the Chipotle's, the new Starbucks. There's, just things that one after another. So please stay up on it. And if you have any questions, please come to any of your representatives and ask questions. Okay? Thank you very much. Have a safe time home. Let me flip the page here, and the upcoming meeting schedule. The next regular meeting of the Yucca Valley Town Council will be held on Tuesday, September 5th, 2023 at 6 p.m. here in the Yucca Valley Community Center room. Please have a safe night. Good night.